So what's next in the world of agentic AI?
You're making a little XY graph. Your graph's going to be bad if your data's bad. And it's followed along the trend through time, regardless of the technology.
Welcome to the Don't Panic, It's Just Data podcast, where we have a weekly conversation with people impacting the enterprise tech landscape. My name is Shubhangi Dua, the podcast host, producer, and B2B tech journalist at EM360 Tech. And this episode, joining us is Will Martin, EMEA Evangelist at Dremio. Hi Will, how are you?
I'm good, yeah, thanks for having me.
Also, we are speaking live from Big Data London this year, 2025, and it's their 10th anniversary. And I hear that you gave a speech yesterday.
Yes, yeah, it went very well. Standing room only,
Oh, wow.
but it was probably one of the smallest theatres we have, but still good.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I was talking about a couple of hot topics at the moment, so Agentic AI and things around that, so MCP and also Apache Iceberg, which has been a hot topic for the last year or so.
And I know we're going to get more into Apache Iceberg in a bit, aren't we?
Yes.
So let's set the agenda for the podcast. What do we want our audience to know ultimately? Like, what is the key takeaway and why should they stay tuned in?
Insights into the space, you hear it from professionals, and just information about where we are now, where things are going, and where you should focus your business or your technology stack if you can.
Okay. So let's get into it. Why is a data lakehouse and not a data warehouse the ideal foundation for the new era of AI?
This is for a few reasons, and the reasons that have been around for a while. But a good benefit of, well, a flaw of warehouses is to get going with them, you need to move all your data into them. And for a lot of organizations, that's a big hassle, can take a long time, can be expensive, and you ultimately can end up ripping up processes that are there, right? If you have a data silo, it exists for a reason. Something's feeding information to it. You usually have other processes feeding off of it. So if you shift all that to a warehouse, it disrupts a lot of your business. But with a lakehouse, you can federate your access. So you centralize your access to one place, your lakehouse, but you leave your data where it is. And that really just gets people going really quickly.
And so essentially you're saying you get what you need. And how does that contribute to AI in the sense of like a data quality point of view?
Yeah, so there's two ways it works. So in terms of data quality, if you have your access all through one place, while you still physically have your data silos, on a technical level you don't. Like you can see all your data, and so you can see the problems, analyze them and improve them, refine your data, so that's all great for AI. The other benefit is if you have one access point, your users can access through that, but also your AI can. So rather than trying to set up integrations for your different sources, so your lake storage or BigQuery or something like that, or your databases, you can just do it to one place. So it's much easier to maintain.
And of course, now we're talking a lot about AI agents, right? So what do you feel about letting AI agents work on sensitive data?
It's a concern. There's been stories in the news, right, of people in the last year of using chatbots or opening up agents in companies, and it's opened up data they didn't want to share, like CEO emails and things like this. So that is a concern, but if you're using something like a lakehouse, governance is easy. I mean, governance is key, but if you're a lakehouse, it's a lot easier because a key part of a lakehouse is your data catalog, and it's there for browsing and finding your information, but also for securing access and giving permissions. So again, if we go back and think about you're leaving all your silos in your systems, if you have a catalog, you can access in one place, but you can do all your security and permissions in one place rather than all these individual systems, which is great if you work in IT.
So, of course, I'm hearing lots of pros, but what about the cons? What about the challenges that you faced in getting this technology up to date? What are you doing to solve this?
Yeah, so there are some drawbacks to lakehouses. There are issues. So a big component of a lakehouse is, well, there are two things. So I've talked about a catalog. The other part is a metadata. So until recently, there's been a variety of formats which have differences to them. But pulling ahead is Iceberg, Apache Iceberg, and Delta Lake. But in recent years, Apache Iceberg, in the last sort of 12, 16 months, is now the front runner. So people are adopting that. So that was one issue. There were sort of format issues and differences. That's all kind of falling away, which is fantastic. But there are issues inherent with having metadata. It can be quite big, and it needs managing and things like this. And that's one thing certain companies and vendors are trying to deal with, because you have all these benefits, technical benefits, but there's also technical overheads. And that can kind of clash a little bit with how you think about analytics on a lakehouse. The idea of opening it out to less technical people, especially recently with AI and AI agents. It's easy to ask questions, but it's not easy to optimize stuff.
Exactly. But can you give us some use cases, perhaps some practical examples to explain more that in the case of its execution?
So yeah, so Dremio, we are a lakehouse provider, and we are Iceberg native. So we use Apache Iceberg through the stack. We started that way and we're still doing it. And we made the right bet. We've seen the industry kind of shift over. So firstly with Snowflake, and now recently with even Databricks, who have their own format with Delta Lake. So that's been a quite good reaffirming for us. We made the right choice. But that really helps with opening up the system. So we believe in the benefits of open source is that everybody can share a quality standard, but it also opens up the vendor space. So you're not locked into a proprietary format or with a certain vendor. It's easy to mix and match components. And that's what we talk about a lot at Dremio, is we call it interoperability. So if you like our catalog, you can just use our catalog. You don't have to get our engine or buy the whole platform. You pick the pieces that work for you. And that's what we've seen with certain customers. So we have a customer in the music space, and their platform was fully with another lakehouse provider, but the query engine wasn't performing well enough. Ours is quite quick. We've benchmarked it recently. It's the fastest query engine on Iceberg. So we had an opportunity there and we moved in. So now the stack is still with the other provider, but the query engine is us. And that's thanks to interoperability. So the customer gets what they want, better performance. And it was relatively painless because of the benefits of open source and this plug and play nature.
I was just going to ask you what makes you stand out, and you kind of did give me an answer with the fastest query engine there. But if you want to add anything more to that.
Yeah. So one other thing we're thinking about is, well, everyone's thinking about AI, right? And I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. So the idea with AI and agentic AI, technical barriers are just gone, right? Anyone can ask a question. Which is great in some cases, maybe not in other cases. You know, your CEO could just start asking questions about your data, and you'd have to justify stuff. But that's all great. So that aspect is all gone, which typically you would give to a data scientist or maybe a data engineer. You previously you'd have a request, they would create the data set and pass it over. But the other thing that engineers do is make stuff optimal. They know that on a technical level, they know what they're doing. They make the queries run well. They make your tables efficient. And agents aren't really going to help with that. AI is not really going to help with that. So that's one issue we've seen in the market, and we've added features to help facilitate that. Some vendors go with managed services. So you pay someone to do it. We have autonomous features. So you can set things up, and it will, in some cases, Dremio will learn from what you do and make things better and optimize things. This is what we have with our reflections. They'll make optimized data sets that make things run faster for you. In other cases, it will automate things like file compaction, garbage collection, sort of, I don't want to say grunt work, but sort of less interesting parts of an engineer's job. So now you don't have to leave that with an engineer and take away all the fun stuff, like the analytics and the building. Now no one has to do that part, which is good for everyone.
Yeah, but engineers might be losing out on their job.
No, just for analytics, they're still needed. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I was just kidding. But I hear that From what I took away from what you just said is that you're selling a data strategy ultimately, and
Yes.
that's the competition, isn't it? It's not just the product, it's the strategy that you sell, and that sets you apart.
Yeah, that's the hard truth, I think, for organizations looking to improve their data at their company, right? Like technology is fantastic and it gets better. You know, we've got AI now, which seems futuristic to a lot of people. But it's not the silver bullet. It doesn't solve everything. Like you need technology and you need a strategy.
Absolutely. And governance.
Yes.
So what's next in the world of agentic AI? What are the opportunities we should be looking out for?
I think you're just going to see it advance a lot more. Sort of along, we've seen a kind of a trend, right? So it started out as sort of a tool to help you do stuff. So maybe like a productivity help me write a bit of code or summarize some bullet points. And recently it's extended a bit more where you can kind of delegate more things to it. With like a basic prompt. Write me some SQL that does this and it will write it for you. And I think it's going to go further that way. So now you properly delegate and you leave it to its own devices and you can go away and do a few steps. So if you try and use an agentic AI now, so we demo quite a lot with Claude, and you'll see with models like that, it will do what you ask, but then it will sort of suggest the next step, or maybe do one step more. I think it will just go a bit further. So it'll do 2 or 3 things. You could give it maybe a more general task and it will show some initiative and you don't have to monitor it so much.
Okay. What about 10 years down the line?
I think in terms of vendors and things like this, I don't know, I haven't thought too much about it, but in terms of the open source ecosystem, I think you're going to see a lot of consolidation of a lot of features and just the open source options getting better and better. So we've seen that a little bit with Polaris. So Apache Polaris is an open source data catalog. We launched it last year with Snowflake and it's going really well. So it started out as a catalog just for Iceberg. Now it's expanded to Delta Lake, which is really great because there aren't a lot of options for Delta Lake catalogs. And the idea is to move more and more things in. So things that are typically in a vendor's exclusive catalog will go in. Things like permission and governance settings, fine-grained access control, all these kind of things that vendors could sell, but now be included in something widely available and free. So I think they'll be pivoting around that. And where do you go from there? If a lot of the cool stuff is free and open, what do you sell? What's your value add?
How are you making the money?
Yeah.
So great, we are nearing the end of the podcast. So my final question to you would be, if you had to summarize one key takeaway for CTOs, CIOs, IT decision makers out there, what would it be and why?
It's probably something you've heard quite a lot. It is your data is critical, right? The quality of your data is critical. Think back, even when you're at school and you're making a little XY graph, your graph's going to be bad if your data's bad. And it's followed along the trend through time, regardless of the technology, right? Your BI dashboard's going to be bad if your data's bad. Your ML model's going to be rubbish if your data's bad. And AI is the same. So quality is key. So things like lakehouses really help with opening up accessibility. Like just seeing your data is a huge improvement for a lot of companies. Seeing it in one place and being able to clean it is great, but cleaning is always going to have to be done.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Data quality is a must, and I think that's the lesson we've learned through so many episodes of our podcast as well. So thank you so much, Will. That was a great episode. Thank you for joining us here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you to everyone for listening. We hope you took a lot away from today's podcast. For further information on what we've talked about, please head on over to Dremio.com. We'll be back next week with another episode in our podcast series. Until then, make sure you subscribe to this podcast on all major platforms and follow the conversation on our socials at EM360Tech on X and LinkedIn. And for more great daily content, head over to em360tech.com.